Before beginning this video, I feel the need to make two things clear. First, I love Thunderbirds. I grew up watching the original series. I remember Pit of Peril gave me nightmares. I loved watching the film Thunderbirds Are Go, and was thrilled to discover the existence of its sequel, Thunderbird 6. I played with Thunderbirds toys. In fact, Thunderbird 3 actually appeared in a number of my early short films. I even pledged money to the Thunderbirds 1965 project back in 2015. I own 3 episodes of Thunderbirds many fans haven't even seen. I am a proper Thunderbirds fan. Second, I want to briefly discuss adaptation. Whenever I watch something based on a pre-existing property, I always ask 2 questions. Is it a good representation of the source material? And/or is it a good piece of entertainment in its own right? Okay, with that out of the way, on with the video.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds Are Go.
Thunderbirds is a classic British television series, which originally aired from 1965 to 1966. It spawned 2 feature films, Thunderbirds Are Go in 1966 and Thunderbird 6 in 1968. After nearly a decade in development, a live-action feature film based on the series was released in 2004. It received a predominantly negative response due to its many changes. Thunderbirds co-creator Gerry Anderson famously hated the film, which is understandable. I will be the first to admit it is a terrible representation of the source material. In fact, when I first watched the film, I also hated it. However, after revisiting it, I came to realize that when viewed as an alternate take on the source material, there is actually a lot to appreciate about the film. In fact, I actually came to love it. Before we begin, be warned this video will include spoilers. Despite the changes, the filmmakers clearly had an affection for the original series, and included several knowing nods throughout.
Like a puppet on a string.
Supermarionation famously included shots of live-action hands whenever the characters were required to perform complex or fiddly tasks. The film does the reverse, including a single close-up of a puppet hand in one shot. There are even some surprisingly deep-cut references to Thunderbird's lore.
I should have guessed. Jeff Tracy. The billionaire ex-astronaut, of course. Isn't he the one who lost his wife in an accident? Avalanche, wasn't it? How tragic.
The tragic death of Lucille Tracy was never mentioned in the original series or films. In fact, the character wasn't even named on screen. Instead, her death was explored in expanded media, with the most commonly accepted cause being an avalanche. Several of the changes made do actually make sense.
We looked at the swimming pool and we realised that people nowadays wouldn't believe a rocket taking off very close to the house, because the glass would melt and all the rest of it, and there'd be serious damage. So the way we moved it further away from the house was by having double swimming pools, a smaller sort of diving pool near the house and a larger swimming pool, the one that opens further away.
For example, in a world where mobile phones exist, it's impossible to believe that international rescue could avoid any and all video surveillance from onlookers, as they did in the series.
It's the Thunderbirds! They're gonna be on TV! Let's go! They're gonna be on TV!
Fans were furious Lady Penelope's car, Fab 1, was a Ford in the film, and not a Rolls-Royce as it had so iconically been in the series. The filmmakers did approach Rolls-Royce, however the company declined involvement. Basing the film's version of Fab 1 on the Ford Thunderbird was a clever compromise. Granted, the Ford product placement throughout is somewhat ridiculous. The film looks stunning. From the sets to the costumes to the locations, it's clear just how much effort was put into the production. The redesigned Thunderbird craft are reasonably faithful to the original, while also feeling more at home in the 21st century. The CGI is still impressive. There is some obvious green screen, particularly on Tracy Island. However, this is easily overlooked. Obviously, it's unfair to compare the production value of a television series produced in the 1960s to that of a feature film made 4 decades later on a budget of $57 million. However, it is exciting to see the iconic craft brought to life with such style. Of course, the original series did boast some impressive visuals as well, even by today's standards. The late Bill Paxton, still feels weird having to say that, gives an uncharacteristically understated performance as widowed father and team leader Jeff Tracy. There is a weight to the character. Scott, John, Virgil, and Gordon Tracy aren't given a lot of focus in the film, and weirdly resemble a boy band. Similar to the previous 2 Thunderbirds films, the plot focuses heavily on the youngest Tracy brother, Alan, essentially making him the main character. Here he is also aged down to a teenager. Alan is paired with Fermat, Brain's teenage son, best you don't think about that too long, who was an original character created specifically for the film. Admittedly, some of the teenage dialogue doesn't hold up terribly well.
Ooh, I wish I could be a Thunderbird one day. Thunder turd.
That's another good one, Diaper Boy.
A pre-High School Musical Vanessa Hudgens stars as fellow teen and Alan's love interest, Tintin. The original series often hinted at a romance between Alan and Tintin, but never fully committed. The film also explores Tintin's familial connection to the villainous Hood.
She has the same powers as her uncle, the Hood.
You think?
Must run in the family.
This was never really addressed in the original series, most likely because despite being their arch-nemesis, the Hood and International Rescue very rarely interacted directly. The film actually fleshes out the villain more than the original ever did, giving him a backstory and motivation for his quest to destroy International Rescue. The ever-impressive Ben Kingsley lends a gravitas to what could be a fairly generic villain.
It's the children. They have it.
No way. They're dead. No one could live through something like that. I did.
Of course, Sophia Myles steals the film as Lady Penelope Crichton Ward,
Hello, boys.
along with her ever-loyal butler/chauffeur, Parker. The pair are a delight to watch on screen and offer a lot of the film's best fun.
I must warn you that I know Judo, Cry Magna, and Taekwondo.
And I know Parker.
Lady?
Certain elements of the character, such as Lady Penelope's constant wardrobe changes, are exaggerated for the film. Similarly, Brain's iconic stutter is severely exaggerated for comedic effect.
There's something I wanted to talk to you about, Dad.
Oh, right. Oh, okay, right. You're having problems with a female?
No.
This could be seen as insensitive to those with actual speech impediments. However, it does lead to a genuinely hilarious exchange with the Hood.
Even the strongest minds can be broken. It would be a pity to break yours.
No way.
The Thunderbirds theme is truly iconic. Even those who have never seen the series would likely recognize it. Composer Hans Zimmer did a fabulous job of incorporating it into his score for the film without really altering it. It should also be noted the opening titles are incredibly creative. Also, anyone who thinks Busted's Thunderbirds Are Go isn't cool is wrong. The single is very much of its time, and not at all the kind of sound you'd likely associate with Thunderbirds. But it really does capture the excitement of the film. The film is often criticised for being silly.
Shall I bring the car around, my lady?
Parker, have a bit of a lie down.
Because, of course, the original could never be accused of that. It's true. In contrast to the generally more serious tone of the television series, the film is far more tongue-in-cheek. However, that was deliberate. What many fail to appreciate is the film isn't trying to be the original, but rather take inspiration from it. The film is intentionally self-aware and doesn't take itself too seriously.
Lady Penelope, why are you in America? Are you on a mission for my father?
Shh. I am an undercover agent, so please try to be discreet.
Here we are.
The film occasionally flirts with slightly edgier humour.
I love it when your checkered past comes in handy, Parker.
Thank you, my lady. Unfortunately, I fear I shall need a piece of wire to access the mechanism.
Will this suffice, Parker?
Most certainly, my lady.
I didn't actually need it anyway.
Of course not, my lady.
Though not all of these attempts land.
Alan, they're saying Tintin is blossoming?
Blossoming? What's that supposed to mean?
In spite of its lighter tone, the film does have emotional weight. While elements of the world the characters inhabit may be exaggerated, their relationships are genuine. The payoff to Alan's arc, essentially learning to accept the responsibility of being a Thunderbird, is truly moving.
Leave me, Alan. Leave me to die.
Like your father did. I don't want to save your life. But it's what we do.
It's a delicate balance, but director Jonathan Frakes, yes, that Jonathan Frakes, pulls it off. The film is, in a word, enjoyable. There was some very minor setup for a potential sequel.
See you soon, Jeff.
However, due to this film's poor reception, no plans were ever made. Personally, I'd have been interested in seeing at least one more film. Given where this film ends, it would have been interesting to see if a sequel would have been more in line with the source material. But I suppose Thunderbirds 2 would have been a somewhat confusing title. I can understand those who don't like this film. I didn't at first. However, as with any remake or reboot, the original still exists and can still be enjoyed. There is also the more recent television revival Thunderbirds Are Go, which is more in keeping with the original. There was actually an earlier attempt to revive the series. Back in 2005, only a year after the release of the live-action film, a trailer surfaced online for Thunderbirds IR. Interestingly, the trailer seemed to take some inspiration from the film. Ultimately, the series was cancelled before ever really getting off the ground. I'd like to believe I'm not alone in my appreciation of the 2004 film. If you also liked it, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you're one of the many who didn't, I'd also be interested in hearing your thoughts, politely expressed.